You know, when we think about the future of education and AI, we usually imagine smarter software, right? But what if the biggest breakthrough isn't just a smarter AI, but a smarter partnership between humans and AI? Today, we're diving into a fascinating study that does exactly that. It pairs a collaborative classroom method with a personal AI tutor. And the result? Well, it might just be a whole new blueprint for how we learn. Okay, let's be real. We've all been in those group projects. Sometimes they're amazing, but a lot of the time they kind of fall flat. So the central question this research tackles is a huge one. How do we get past all the common pitfalls and finally truly unlock the power of learning together? So here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at the challenge itself. Then we'll get into the specifics of this human AI experiment. After that, we'll unpack the key findings across 3 different dimensions of learning. See how this balanced partnership actually works, and finally, talk about what all of this means for the future of education. First up, let's set the stage. Collaboration is the big buzzword in modern education, but let's face it, it doesn't always work as well as we'd hope. The traditional approach has some pretty serious limitations. And this slide just nails the problem, doesn't it? The research points to these classic issues. You've got that one person who dominates the whole conversation, while others have brilliant ideas but struggle to get a word in. And maybe worst of all, even when you have a great discussion, how much of it does everyone actually remember a week later? That is the problem this whole study is designed to fix. So what's the big idea? The experiment took a really pioneering approach, systematically weaving together a human-centric teaching model with a reflective AI. The first piece of this puzzle is a method called group investigation, or GI for short. Now, this is all based on social constructivism, which is really just a fancy way of saying that we learn best when we're actively building knowledge together, through discussion and problem solving, instead of just passively listening to a lecture. And this is where it gets really cool, seeing how these 2 pieces fit together. On one side, you've got the group investigation. That's the collaborative engine driving the discussion and the social learning. But then you have the AI tutor, which plays a totally different role. It acts as a personal, reflective guide, and it nurtures something we often forget about, the student's motivation and confidence. They aren't competing at all. They're 2 sides of the same coin, creating one powerful learning cycle. And here's the nuts and bolts of how they tested it. They had 58 university students in a literature course go through this group investigation process. Afterwards, each student used an AI tutor to reflect on what they learned and how it went. The researchers then did a really deep dive into those reflections, a qualitative analysis, to really listen to the students' own voices and understand the true impact. So what did they actually find? Well, the results were pretty fascinating. They broke down the impact across 3 distinct dimensions of learning: the cognitive, the social, and something called the affective. But before we dig into the data, just listen to this quote from one of the students. It perfectly captures what the AI was doing. It wasn't about spitting out answers. It was a tool that helped them go deeper, to refine their own thinking, and build a much more meaningful analysis for themselves. Okay, this table sums up the core findings beautifully. So cognitively, students got much better at deep analysis. Socially, the AI actually helped to mediate and balance out the group dynamics. But the biggest discovery, honestly, is in that 3rd row, the affective dimension. This research really points to a huge gap in traditional education. We focus so much on what students learn and how they work together, but we almost completely neglect how they feel about their own learning. The AI tutor, just by providing validation and boosting confidence, was uniquely able to fill that emotional and motivational gap. And that brings us to one of the most powerful ideas from this whole study, this concept of a balanced partnership. This was never about the AI replacing the human teacher or the group, but about creating this perfect synergy between them. And this chart just visualizes that partnership brilliantly. Take a look. For the cognitive and social skills, you can see the human-led group investigation is doing most of the heavy lifting. But then look at the affective dimension: motivation, confidence, self-awareness. And whoa, the AI tutor is the clear superstar here. So the crucial point isn't that one is better than the other. It's that they each have a unique, complementary role. One builds knowledge and social skills. The other builds the inner confidence you need to actually use them. So, the big question is, where do we go from here? The study doesn't just leave us with interesting findings. It actually gives us a pretty clear roadmap for innovating education. The recommendations are super direct and actionable. Things like assigning clear roles in groups to make them work better. And on the tech side, developing more adaptive AIs that can really guide student reflection. But most importantly, this isn't just for a literature class. This model could be integrated across all kinds of subjects, and it's something that should absolutely be on the table when we talk about policy innovation in higher education. Which leaves us with this final, really important question. We've seen how combining structured human collaboration with a personalized, reflective AI can create a learning experience that's so much more holistic and effective. It doesn't just strengthen what students know, but also how they work with others. And, critically, how they feel about their own journey as a learner. So, could this really be the blueprint we've been searching for?